everybody, this week on Horror Movie Night we discuss Frailty. If Scott got touched by the family, he might see that time that he came in his own eye. Adam's vision would be about all the many times that he rewound waxwork because it brings him great shame. And mine would be worshipping false idols because I think that Matthew McConaughey is a fucking Adonis. Ooh, ooh. Ooh. And we are and we are joined by Rich, who picked this movie.
Already regretting this decision.
I never regret my horror movie night decisions.
Well, that makes you and Adam.
Rich, you were the closest person to giving any type of positive feedback on Dr. Giggles, so I'm a big fan of you right now.
Oh, well, thanks. I always enjoy that movie.
All right, so let's talk about Frailty. So the movie opens with Matthew McConaughey, who's playing Fenton, and he's meeting with this FBI agent who's searching for the God's Hand killer. Fenton tells the officer that his brother Adam, who recently committed suicide, is in fact this infamous killer, and he asks him to tell him why he believes this, and then we're taken into a flashback that's like 85 to 90% of the movie. One night, their father, played by Bill Paxton, claims that an angel told him to kill demons disguised as normal people. Their father receives a list and abducts people on the list. Once he touches these people, he sees the evil deeds that they've done, and he kills them with an axe, and then him and his two kids bury the body. Now, Adam immediately buys into the story, while Fenton doesn't quite believe it. And while Fenton's assisting with the murders, he eventually can't stand the guilt any longer. He talks to a local sheriff, who is then killed by the father. The father reveals that Fenton is actually on the list of demons. His father doesn't want to kill his son, so he locks him in the cellar, hoping that Fenton will eventually accept the mission. Fenton eventually breaks and joins them for the next murder, only to turn on his father and kill him. But then Adam steps up and kills the abducted victim. Fenton asks Adam to please bury him in the rose garden when and if Adam ever decides to kill him. Fenton then takes the FBI agent to the rose garden, only to reveal that he is in fact Adam and has already murdered Fenton. He then kills the FBI agent, promising that God's divinity will protect him from ever being caught. And this proves to be true when all of the surveillance cameras seem to blur out his face and no one in the office can remember what he looked like even when they meet face to face again. So that's Frailty in a nutshell. It's a good movie, which is what's going to make this kind of a difficult episode. I know Adam already told us that he wasn't really able to do notes for this one because it's not one that you can really pick apart and have a lot of fun with. But I would actually go out there and say that I think that this is, despite the fact that we can't really have a super fun episode about this, I would like to say that this episode is that this movie is probably one of the better like horror / dramas out there because it does a really good job of playing with what is reality.
But it doesn't at all.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't, and that's where this movie lacks. Is the fact that, like, okay, the first time I saw this movie, it was like 2002, and I thought it was like the best thing since shitting in a toilet. It was a big deal, and then I watched it again.
I want to know the rankings of all of the other things in your life where it's like, all right, so number one with a bullet, shitting in a toilet. What's the number two best thing that can happen for Scott?
Number two, sliced bread, but they don't necessarily go in that order.
That should be number two.
You ain't lived until you used sliced bread to wipe your ass and then shit in a toilet, after shitting in a toilet. But anyway, I've
been camping before.
I can tell by the beard. So here's my problem with this film, is the first time you watch it, you're blown away by the revelation that he is actually Adam, and that the dad actually is seeing demons, or he's seeing evil people. But for me, it's diminishing returns, because this is the third time I've watched this film, and each time it loses some of the luster, because I think that the best thing this movie could have done to make it actually scary would have been to have Bill Paxton be a fucking psycho, not touched by some divine power that wants him to destroy evil people. But then again, I remember that this movie came out in 2001, and 2001 was like the hotbed of stupid supernatural bullshit movies. Do you remember that time? Like Stigmata, Days, like the Ninth Gate, which was actually pretty solid. I don't know, Devil's Advocate, stuff like that. Late 90s, early 2000s were like...
And this is definitely better than all of... Like, I think that while I agree with you, I think this movie does hold up better than a lot of the movies that you've just named, except for maybe the Ninth Gate.
Except for the Ninth Gate. Yeah, the Ninth Gate is awesome.
I disagree on the Ninth Gate. I think that this is the cream of that particular crop. Devil's Advocate is fucking garbage. I know that much.
I will not rewatch that movie. The only thing I liked about that movie was the dead baby that Charlize Theron kept having nightmares about or something. But it was a total ripoff of Rosemary's Baby. So,
are you thinking of Trainspotting?
No, because that is the best. God damn it, not Nightmare on Elm Street, but Rosemary's Baby ripoff is the dead baby. Which coincidentally, that movie kept me from becoming a heroin addict. So thanks a lot, Trainspotting.
If that movie hadn't existed, you would have just been on the H train all day, every day.
No, I'd be taking it suppository style, because that's the way I like to roll. But yeah, I would be like on this right now, being like, guys, thrash metal sucks. Let's listen to fucking stoner metal.
It's like, let's put on some doom metal. The one thing I remember is, like, maybe this is just me, but do you remember this trailer being on pretty much every Lionsgate release known to man for like 6 years? Because I remember every time I rented a Lionsgate film, seeing the trailer for Frailty.
Really?
Yeah.
It was like, I never ever saw previews for this movie, but I was working in a video store when it came out, so I knew about it.
Rich, how about you talk a little bit about why you picked this movie, and while you do that, I want to look at something in one of my books real quick.
One of your binders full of women? We'll get to that. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, this is one of those movies. I always like the religious aspects of movies and things like that. And like my other pick when I talked to Matt was like The Fallen. Previous pick was Stakeland.
Was Fallen the Fallen? Is that the one with Denzel? And it's like the demon that can touch people and like.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that was my other pick. That was other than Frailty.
Isn't that just Fallen?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought that it was a different movie.
Anyways, but yeah, other than Zombievers, that was a one-off kind of thing. But, most of my picks, I like the religious aspect of it and things like that, and the supernatural. That and slashers are my two, not so much some of the other type movies. So, but I knew this was a good one, and Matt had talked about wanting to watch it last round, so I gave him the go-ahead to just do it this round.
Yeah, I definitely think that this would have, especially for a Reddit horror movie pick, this would have been way better than Zombievers as far as the discussion would have went.
I don't let me forget that Rich is the one that picked Zombievers, because I love / hate him for it.
Well, I still contend, the biggest reason I did it is brand new. I figured everybody would be watching it for the first time.
No. It was a genius reason, and you get major points for having not watched it before you picked it, because that takes serious balls. Plus, it gives you a get out of jail free card for how fucking terrible that movie actually was.
So here's a question for Adam. Of the two people on this call who did complete blind picks, which was more awful for you to sit through, Adam? Zombievers or Happy Birthday to Me?
Zombievers.
Sorry, Rich. I thought you would pick Happy Birthday.
No, I mean, Happy Birthday was 7 hours long and just awful in everything that it tried to do. Its execution and its kills and its acting and script. Wait, no, Zombievers suck too. Yeah, they both sucked equally.
So, was there any points that you wanted to discuss with Frailty while you were on the show, Rich?
Well, the how you guys were discussing how they saved, to the end to show the supernatural. I guess what I was reading was that when he first touches the first girl, the nurse, they actually showed her killing that guy in the original script, and they were going to show it as a supernatural movie throughout the whole thing. And then actually James Cameron is the one who told Bill Paxton, save it for the end. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. I think that if this movie had established that from the get-go, it definitely wouldn't have worked as well. Because I think I also agree with Scott in the sense that this is definitely a movie where it's going to work best the first time around, because there's that reveal of like, holy shit, the guy wasn't crazy. But in repeat viewings, it works better if he was crazy.
Well, okay, here's why I was breaking it apart when I watched it last night for horror movie night. And my problem isn't really that they have that reveal so much as it's not presented well throughout the movie beforehand, because half of the people, when Bill Paxton is touching them, are just like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you touching me? And I don't know. I feel like if they were going to have that reveal, they should have had, if Bill Paxton is feeling like this energy, terrible feeling as he's having the visions, and so is Adam, he's seeing the visions too, then I feel like that should be explained better. It should have the people being like, like freaking out too, you know? I felt like it could have been done better one way or the other, but they went the middle of the road for it, and I think that is what bothers me about this film. Although it is a really good movie, and I don't think it's aged poorly. I think it's a pretty timeless flick, and it's pretty good. And Matthew McConaughey playing crazy is never a bad thing. But that said, I think that the direction could have been better, or they could have just picked when they were going to have that explanation kind of start to surface a little better.
Yeah, and this is Bill Paxton's first directing job, and I think it was his
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever directed anything else, but yeah, this was directed by Bill Paxton.
No, directed by Bill Paxton's very poorly grown sideburns.
They did do that at the end too when he did touch the FBI agent. If you remember, it was almost like the guy was like paralyzed. What they revealed at the end.
I think that it would have been cool. There's an angle that they could have taken with this that I would have also kind of enjoyed. Admittedly, like I said, I've already spoken a week or two ago about how much I love the movie Super, so I will continue with that. But the idea that, like, I almost wish that they would have gone... There's a way that you could have kept the supernatural element and kept the spookiness element of it if you had it as if he had finished the list and now that quote-unquote power has gone to his head where he's just fucking picking off people left and right just because he thinks that they're doing something evil, not because something divine has told him to do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if a horror movie's supposed to, like, scare you or freak you out, the revelation that, he's really sent by God, you're like, all right, well, I'm not raping or murdering anybody, so exactly. I should be okay.
Yeah. They also make it very clear that his power is supernatural because he touches the Powers Booth's character, like that police sergeant or whatever he is, and he's like, but you thought no one knew about that. He's like, how did you know? I mean, okay, so they share the visions when he puts his hands on them. Okay, then therefore that means that everybody else should have acted that way, one. And two, so what, is Powers Booth, like, not sorry that, or is he sorry that he killed his mom? What's the fucking point of him killing his mom and then having, like, that picture on his desk? I don't know. I just feel like there are a lot of loose ends, especially, explain this to me.
Why do any murderers take trophies?
But the thing is okay, is that a trophy? I don't know. I'm not. That's just a rhetorical. I mean, that's an open-ended question. But also, that brings me to the whole thing with Fenton. So it's very poorly explained in the film. Is Fenton killing people to get his brother's attention or the police's attention, or is that something that Adam said just to get the sergeant to come with him to the Rose Garden so that he could kill him?
Oh, I think that was something he just said to get him to the Rose Garden because
But that doesn't make sense. No. I'm sorry. I understand that's what the implication is that it's a lie, but it's not, because when they go at the end of Fenton's house, there are bodies in the basement. So who fucking killed him? Is Fenton now insane because he killed his dad? And
yeah, that's what I think it alludes to, is that Fenton goes nuts from all this.
But why? Okay, so is that why he's now on Adam's list?
Well, and remember, he was on the dad's original list too, though, and the dad decided not to.
So it's fucked up either way, because either Fenton was predestined to be a murdering psychopath, or the traumatic stuff that happened when he was young with the dad murdering people and killing people sort of develops in, and it's like nurture, and he becomes a psychopath. Either fucking way, if God exists, then what the shit was that? Why did that fucking have to happen?
It's like when you try to figure out the logic of time travel, and it doesn't, like, you're like, oh, god damn it, but if you go back in time to do this, then you can't fucking do that anymore. Like,
so it's fucked up. Like, either God, like, created this child specifically to be a serial killer, or he dropped all this traumatic shit on a small child and created a serial killer. either way, you fucked up, God. That's not his. Like, what the fuck?
You know what? I think that this movie's title, I was thinking about this today. I was like, why did they pick the title Frailty? It would have been much better to call it God's Hand or something like that. But I think that if they would have explained in the script that Frailty, the title, meant the fact that Bill Paxton wouldn't kill his son, they could have done that really awesomely by having Fenton fucking kill Adam too and be like, you didn't kill, like that would have made it a more expressive film to me. A more compelling film is if the two righteous people knew that they had to kill this evil person, Fenton, and that Fenton actually wins, like evil wins. That would have been much more compelling to me, and that would have stuck with me and been a much more of a chiller type ending. Is that, okay, there is good and evil, there is a battle between them, and evil won. And but evil doesn't have a purpose. Evil just kills indiscriminately, whereas the God's Hand killers had lists that were given to them by angels. So there's nothing scary about this film once that is brought to light. So for me, there are so many ways that they could have done this movie better, and they could have then brought the title in to play.
All right, well, at the end of the day, would you recommend this movie to people?
Me? Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good movie.
I agree. Adam?
I think there's a real schism with the people that watch this. They either love the ending the first time around, or they hate the ending the first time around.
You're also assuming that there are people that watch this movie more than once.
Yes. I mean, we watch too many goddamn movies. That's a fucking fact. But I'm sure that there will be people that hadn't seen this before, and I think that the sort of disparity comes in the first watch. You're either going to really love it the first time around, and then it's diminishing returns because you've seen it, you know the twist. Or I looked up like some reviews for it on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, and it seemed to be pretty split. Like, people either loved it or hated it the first time they saw it. I guarantee when we put the discussion up, we're going to see some of that in there. And yeah, they don't leave it terribly ambiguous or anything at the end. Like, they really hammer it home. Like, this is fully supernatural. It's definitely 100%. I think if it had been a little more ambiguous, I would have liked that a little better. But I would recommend it. I mean, I'll tell people it's going to be 50-50. Like, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. But I would definitely recommend it because I liked it a lot the first time that I saw it.
Yeah. Rich, real quick before we get into what did we watch this week, do you have anything that you want to promote since you're not a regular commentator on the episodes?
No.
Well, is there anything else that you watched besides Frailty this week that you want to discuss real quick?
Well, yeah. I mean, yesterday I watched Dr. Giggle's Frailty. The day before I watched Videodrome. So, other than that, I did watch Joe. If you've seen that movie, Nicolas Cage, I thought that was really well done. That's one of those ones where there's no black and white characters, as in it's all gray. You know, everybody's screwed up, and you know, you choose for yourself kind of where the morality type lies. But I thought that was really well done. Right. Other than that, no. I watched some Amazon Instant Video. I've been on a Richard Dean Anderson kick. I got my Stargate, my MacGyver going.
Adam or Scott, which one of you? Because I got a shit ton to go through, so I'm going to go last this time.
Adam, you go first, because I have to try and remember the stupid bullshit I watched this week.
I watched the newest episode of Rick and Morty last night.
How was it?
It was okay. It's kind of a weak start to what I'm sure will be an awesome fucking season, but yeah, it was just a bit of a weak episode. But whatever, I'm sure they'll pick it up. We got another 10 episodes for them to prove that they're going to have a good season. So I've also been rewatching Dexter. I started watching Dexter again. I don't intend to finish it, because I know better than to do season 7 or 8. But I am going to watch through... I want to at least watch the Trinity Killer season again, because that shit's so good.
The Trinity Killer season's really good, but I really like the Colin Hanks season as well. Season 6.
I never finished that season. I really liked the kills they were doing in it, with like the snakes and the fucking angels and stuff. So I'm willing to watch it again just for the like sweet kills. But yeah, I never finished it because I was a little bit behind, and everybody just kept telling me how fucking shit the show got in general.
You know what though? That last 5 minutes of that season is like my best like my favorite cliffhanger of all time. I don't want to tell you what it is, obviously, but
season 6 ends fantastically, and then they fuck the pooch after that. But what else did you watch this week?
Just because we were talking about it last record, I've been watching Justice League Unlimited again. Nice. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I know Scott's been watching Young Justice, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I like Justice League, and I like Justice League Unlimited. Young Justice, not so much. But
I thought you loved Young Justice. You were talking about it for like a month on end.
I know, because like I kept watching it, but there's a lot like.
Okay.
We'll dive into it in a minute here. But what else did I watch? I don't think I watched a whole lot else. Yeah, I'm still. I didn't finish Last Man on Earth after you guys told me that it didn't pick up or get any better. So I don't intend to do that. Yeah, right now I'm just looking forward to... Oh, no, you know what? I started watching Season 2 of True Detective.
How's that?
Not as good as Season 1. I mean, it's still like a phenomenally well-done show, but just not as good. And I've been trying to do Season 3 of Hannibal, but I don't know what it is. I just can't concentrate on that show. It's not holding my attention anymore. It was for a time, but not anymore.
And that's the last season anyway, right? Didn't they cancel?
Yeah. That'll be the last one, yeah. It is canceled. Netflix passed on it. I don't think anybody's going to pick it up. So apparently they've like really ramped up the speed at which they had intended to do it. So it's blazing through like all the material that it can right now to try and get to the end goal that they had in sight. I don't know. I'm gonna continue trying to watch it. I mean, it's a great show, well acted. It's just struggling to keep my attention right now.
All right, Scott, how about you?
I just want to pour one out for my boy Brian Fuller. Poor dude can't keep a show on fucking television.
No, he really can't.
And he makes so many good shows, too. Like, I've enjoyed all the shows of his that I watched. I haven't watched Hannibal yet, but Pushing Daisies, Dead Like Me, and Wonder Falls I all thought were great.
And I was cautiously optimistic of the, whatever it was called, that was supposed to be the Monsters, or whatnot, like that show that he did, like just the pilot for. I don't know. But anyway, on to what I watched. I really don't remember what I watched this week. I didn't watch much of anything because I was working on some other stuff. But I finally, I'm almost 33, and I have wanted to watch this movie for decades. And I finally watched it, and I was somewhat underwhelmed by Terror Train. I put it off for so long. My expectations were not that high, but Jamie Lee Curtis is just a terrible Survivor girl. Yeah. I'm going to get into this in a future Geekscape article, but man, she's just so pouty and annoying, and she just like whimpers for about 45 minutes, and then runs away for another 20, and then kicks the shit out of him for 2, and then thinks it's all over, and then some dude has to fucking save her. So she's not actually a good Survivor girl, except for Halloween H2O. Then she's a badass.
Okay, so here's real quick with Terror Train, because I think the Terror Train's fun, but it's not very good. But I think it has one of the most fucked up origin stories for how someone became a serial killer, and has one of the most brutal deaths to the slasher.
Oh, when he fucking falls out the window and he hits that mannequin just hitting the ice. It was so close to the water. I think that their original idea was to have it hit the water so it could be like a dun dun dun. Maybe he didn't die, but they had one chance to get it right. It was like thunk.
I love that's the best part in the movie. I like the idea that it has the killer's constantly changing costumes based on the people that he kills on this costume.
I do like that too. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not the best of that slasher decade at all.
I agree. I mean, it is not. It is nowhere close to being the worst slasher I've watched in the last 2 weeks. But it was no Castle Freak, I'll tell you that much. Oh, anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much the only thing worth mentioning that I watched was Terror Train. I have a veritable shitload of obscure horror flicks from the 80s that I have on my list that are waiting, including Matt's most recent discussion outside of Horror Movie Night was on Greatest Movie Ever. He discussed Graveyard Shift, but had to mention Evil Ed at the beginning. and I found a YouTube link for the movie in full. That if anybody's interested, I will post in the threads, and I think that that's going to have to go up there along with all the other random quasi garbage that I have on my list. So that's all I have to say. Matt, why don't we talk about your binders full of DVDs?
All right. Well, I only got the binder like 2 days ago, so I've only watched.
And so you're 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah. So I will name some two quick movies that I watched that I had a lot of fun with, but aren't worth discussing really. I watched Robot Jocks for the first time, and that movie's kind of fun. And because it was about to be pulled from Netflix, I watched Cyborg, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, and that was also a lot of fun. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, you should watch The Best of the Worst by Red Letter Media about Robot Jocks.
Okay, I will check
Didn't
that out.
we have a huge discussion about that one time in Horror Club, right? Maybe round 2 or something? I think that when we were talking about hardware, I think that we brought up Robot Jocks. I'm almost positive.
Possibly, but I may not have joined in that conversation because I had never seen it.
Oh, I sure didn't either. I haven't seen it, and I have very little interest in doing so. But it seems familiar, and I think I'm pretty sure that early on in Horror Club we talked about it.
Robot Jocks is fun though because it's just absurd. For Weird Ass Movie Night, we watched Sleepaway Camp, and people liked it so much they wanted us to watch Sleepaway Camp 2 immediately afterwards. So I watched both of those back to back, and I mean, Sleepaway Camp is definitely going to be a movie that I'm going to pick one of these days for Horror Movie Night. But
we haven't picked it yet. That's one of the most ridiculous things we haven't picked.
But I actually, and there was a brief disagreement in conversation, but Sleepaway Camp 2, I actually think I like a little bit more. I like Sleepaway Camp 1 is without a doubt the best one. Like that's the one to watch. It's got a great twist ending. It's just like the best of the worst as far as like slasher films from that era go. But Sleepaway Camp 2 is just so funny and weird and has these like lines of dialogue that are so absurd that they're in there. There's one scene that I love in this movie because it is like the most awkward sex scene humanly possible between two campers in the woods. And it's like neither one of them looks like they're enjoying themselves. Like they both look like they're in pain during this scene. And then immediately afterwards, the girl gets off of them and starts putting on her shirt and just goes, "You don't have AIDS or anything, right?"
I always forget that that's Sleepaway Camp 2 and not one of the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's a good time. But the movies that I actually really want to get into is that I watched Jennifer Help Us, which was produced by a former member of Reddit Horror Club, Brian. I forget what movies he picked, but he was also on the St. Mort show. He sent me a screener copy of this movie. It's a really good time. And it's definitely cool watching a movie that you know the person who was like involved in the making of it. It was entirely shot on his iPhone, and because they had to shoot it on his iPhone, they changed the time period from modern times to the like late 70s, early 80s, because it looks like a 70s film. It's an all synth soundtrack, but like not like in the disco-y new wavy type synth, but just kind of like those just long sustained tones for scenes, and it's just fucking awesome. Brian did in fact tell me that there will be some big news coming in October. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming distribution, but either way, good luck, Bri. The movie's awesome. Thank you for sending me a copy. You should probably send Scott and Adam copies too. Just saying. The other two things I watched was... I'm trying to decide which one I want to talk about first. I'll talk about that. Okay. Did you ever see the movie Stage Fright from 1987?
I've been trying to find a copy of that for the longest fucking time because Megan was like, "Oh, it's like a musical? I'll watch that."
Yeah,
this is a big deal.
So when I got those my friend Roger gave me 4 binders of horror movies that he inherited from somebody, and I had already seen 2 binders worth of the movies. But the first binder I opened, Stage Fright was the first disc in that binder. And I'm like, well, I know what I'm popping in first, like, because I've been wanting to see this movie forever as well. If you have the disc option on Netflix, though, Scott, you can have it mailed to your house.
Well,
I know you probably
don't
dropped
even
it like
have a
everybody
DVD
else.
player to put it in anymore. So,
but Stage Fright is a lot of fun, and it's a slasher movie about a small town group trying to do a musical, and they decide to lock themselves in the theater all night and rehearse, and accidentally lock in an escaped psychotic actor who wants the lead role, so he is dressing up and killing different people in the play. It's the directorial debut of Dario Argento's cinematographer. It's his directorial debut. So it's got a lot of like Gallo-esque violence mixed into like a cheesy 80s slasher film with like super cheesy 80s musical numbers. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's got some ridiculous moments, and then it's got some really fucking brutal moments. And literally before we record it, I popped in a movie called Killing Mr. Griffin, which is based on the book by Lewis Duncan, who also wrote the book I Know What You Did Last Summer. Killing Mr. Griffin was a TV movie that kind of got buried immediately because after the movie came out, they made Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and then Columbine happened, and it was kind of like, yeah, we're not going to really advertise that we ever made anything related to a bunch of students killing a teacher. But this movie stars Mario Lopez and the Pink Power Ranger and Michelle Williams. And it's pretty shitty. It's a 1997, 1998 TV movie. But the one thing that I wanted to draw attention to is that Michelle Williams' character is like a super geeky character, and they kind of are trying to make her Randall from Scream, but they don't know how to do it properly. So like, whereas Randall would just be like, like he would just name a movie, and if you understood what the reference meant, you understood what the reference meant. But in this movie, she's like, it's just like Body Heat. You know the scene where William Hurt is talking to so and so, like, and it's like, no, that's not how you do reference movies.
That's how you record a podcast.
But throughout the whole, like, she has like 7 or 8 different lines of dialogue where she's like, it's like in this movie, blank, like pause, and then in detail for like a minute and a half describes the scene that she's trying to make make an homage to or a reference to, and it's just every single time it's more and more ridiculous and slows down any like momentum that the movie had. So I don't recommend.
So you've probably forgotten what it's like to actually watch Dawson's Creek.
Yeah,
because that's exactly why they did that.
Well, this was pre-Dawson's Creek, I think. When was Dawson's Creek? Was that 97?
I don't know. I didn't watch it when it was on TV, but I definitely watched it when I got married.
I watched it when it was on Netflix, and it was awful. It's a terrible...
It does not stand the test of time. It is a boring fucking show.
Everyone's so over the top with their issues in that goddamn show.
Dude, just realize that we were all teenagers at one time and thought that our lives were ending because of those exact same issues. No. Oh, God, teenagers are the worst thing ever, and I'm so glad slasher killers just murder all of them.
All right, well, that was Horror Movie Night. Thank you so much, Rich, for joining us. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook and our Twitter accounts and, Reddit /horror club, all that good jazz. You know where to find us. Send us some emails at hmnpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us
where you want to put God's hands.
I was going to say, tell us why the God's Hand Killer would kill you. But, that's better. We'll go with Scott's suggestion instead. Next week, we're going to be talking about a movie that Adam picked. Kind of excited to discuss Piranha 3D. Which, woo!
That makes 3 of us.
So did you finally get on board with this movie there, Scott? Because you were...
Dude, show me your titties, Piranhas.
It's got everything you could ask for, Scott. I know you're going to...
Dude, I'm just going to tell anybody, if they are easily offended by anything that I've ever said, next week is going to be a nightmare for you. Yeah,
next week, just God, sit it out.
I'm going balls out.
I'm sure they will be.
Ridiculously. We'll all be recording from the inside of cold showers.
I'll be thinking about you guys when I'm in the shower.
everybody. This week on Horror Movie Night, we discuss... Okay, let me try that without saying discuss wrong.
We discuss.
We are Roman gladiators.
Yeah, this week on Extreme Frisbee, we...
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.